I'm recording right now.
All right, today we're going to be talking about NaNoWriMo, our goals, how we plan to meet them, and basically I'm going to pick Slater's brain because he's done it a lot longer than I have. I've started projects for NaNoWriMo, but I don't think I've ever actually finished one, like at least not during the month of November.
Yeah. um, NaNoWriMo is very tricky because I was just telling you earlier that, this year
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to find an excuse not to do NaNoWriMo. I was working real hard to find that one little excuse as to why I can't do it, but I just changed jobs where I can work on it for at least a couple hours to myself. And my kids are more mature this year, so it makes it a little easier to manage when I'm working. So I have no excuse, but I got to work on my project this year. And I've been doing it since 2013. And I've been doing almost every, I couldn't give you an exact number, but almost every Camp
Oh, wow.
NaNoWriMo, I've been doing that too. And I only lost
Wow.
last year, I think.
And I think we've already talked about it,
Mm.
but what's your project this year? Do you have any more details on that?
A little bit. I finally named it. It's, well, my secondary character's name is Leviticus Black, and uh, I named it the Black Expose. And it's about this character who works
Mm-hmm.
like a big time magazine, and it's like a Rolling Stone ripoff. And he finally gets to meet this musician, and he like idolizes this musician, and I take him deeper and deeper into this hole of why you should never meet your
Nice.
heroes. And Leviticus Black does darker and darker shit. And my main character's name is Owen Dahmer, and the running joke between the two characters will be that Leviticus constantly calls
Nice.
him Jeff or Jeffrey. Yeah, that'll be just like a fun little thing to
And
put
what's
in there.
your so to meet your goals? Are you doing a lot more outlining, or are you gonna pants it? What?
Well, I'm definitely a planter. Like what I'll do is um, I will have a plan set up in front of me. There'll be a big plot, and I leave
Mm-hmm.
enough gap between plot points where I'm able to improvise in between those moments. So if I need to extend it a little bit, I have breathing room to do so, and that really helps me out a lot. And it gives you some
Yeah.
creativity space so that you can like, for people who want to pants it, um, it's it gives you a little more breathing room, like I just said a second ago. Uh, but I think we only briefly mentioned
Oh,
what was yours
harvester.
called,
Yeah.
Harvest or the Harvester?
Basically,
Yeah,
it started as a cool picture I found on Pexels.com, which is like a free photo site, and I was like, this looks perfect
right.
for a horror novel. And then I'm pretty much I made the cover, and now I'm plotting everything around it. But I love those old,
Mm-hmm.
like, not really old, but those movies about those small towns where it's something really evil is going on, like Children of the Corn or something. And
Right.
it usually revolves around like an agricultural
Yeah.
community type thing. And being from one of those small towns, though we didn't sacrifice anyone,
Yeah.
if if I wasn't from there, I'd
That
been
we
like,
know
yeah, I
of.
believe it. So I kind of want to do that. I just don't know if I want to make it like a religious thing, almost like Children of the Corn.
I mean, if you want to turn it to a religious thing, you could definitely go that like Stephen King route where he always has that one outrageously
Yeah,
overly religious person, and like The Mist. Like you could have like that one crazy person, and then just kind of see where that goes. And depending on how you feel about it, you can turn it into something where the crazy person was right all along, or you can just have them for like extra
so
tension in the story.
yeah, like
I don't know.
basically, so the main plot so far is that for some reason, this one small town has to kill people every year to ensure a good harvest.
Oh,
And I
that's
just,
cool.
like, I'm still trying to figure out, like, I don't know. I've been looking through some books I have. I'm like, maybe it could be like a cool like pagan deity or something.
Mhm.
Like, you
Yeah.
know,
Or you could
yeah,
make one up. That's also fun. You could just base it loosely off of a couple of different ones that
exactly.
actually
I also
existed.
kind of thought maybe doing like a cosmic
That might
thing,
help.
like a Cthulhu-esque
Mhm.
creature.
Oh yeah, dude, Cosmic Horror's
Yeah, and I've been
pretty
getting more into
awesome.
that, and I think it'd be cool too to set a cosmic horror thing away from the ocean or like a body
Mhm.
of water.
Right.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. I got what, 2 more days to
No, that'd
figure
be
it out?
cool. Oh my god, that's true. That's alright. Excuse me for the yawning. I haven't had any coffee today, and I rely very heavily on it. As Jake just takes a long sip.
Yeah, I live off this
Um,
stuff.
so I think I have maybe like the first 24% of my book planned out, and it usually doesn't come to me until as much as I hate it,
Yeah.
I work better under pressure. So like the last day or two, or day and a half, or maybe the last hour, I'll be like, oh my god, it's all coming to me now, and then I'll just write the whole thing out and I'll start it the next day. That's usually what happens to me, and I mean it hasn't failed me yet, so we're doing good so far.
Yeah, I tried to sit down and outline it the other night. I guess I'm going to do that tonight because literally my outline, like it has a good beginning, a decent first chapter
Hmm.
outline, and then like by chapter 2 it just says and bad things start to happen. I'm like, what? Can you tell at which point I ran out of coffee?
Yeah. Oh, that's like how I used to organize my phone. I had two giant folders in the phone, and one said useless shit, and the other folder said everything else.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, I never knew where anything
So
was.
that's about as far as I've gotten. Um, are you using Scrivener or you use?
I ended up not getting Scrivener. Noveler has given me a
Hmm.
really hard time in the past, but it's just a very simple setup, and I'm for the most part pretty happy with it. They've only screwed me over. Well, they didn't intentionally do it. It was like a coding error, but I lost a couple of chapters. And yes, did I have a crisis? I did. That crisis lasted for 2 weeks, and it was miserable. But the cool thing about Noveler is they reached out to me after I. It doesn't matter what social platform that
Hmm.
you contact them on, like Twitter or Facebook or their website. It doesn't matter because you can just send them a message and they respond like instantaneously. They got right back to me and they were like, "What's your story called? What chapter was it in? About how many words did you lose? What was happening in that chapter?" And you're like, you telling them all this stuff, and they come back to you with everything in their system that could have anything that pertains to what you had mentioned, and they are really really solid about it. And because their customer service is so good, that's
Yeah.
why I'm going to kind of stick around with them. And I think if I get an extra hard time with them this time, like they're super awesome to talk to and everything else, but um, they did mess up a couple of my chapters, and that was pretty stressful. So if this doesn't work out, I'm okay with going back to like Google Drive or going into Scrivener because I haven't actually purchased Scrivener yet because I'm not sure what
Yeah.
kind of computer I want to buy next. So and if I get one, I'm going to be downloading it on that computer. So this for now is like an online source. So I'm just going to stick
I
with that for now.
I love
What do you
Scrivener.
usually use?
Um, I used to love it because I could do everything with it, but now that draft to digital makes those beautiful ebooks and Mobi files, I don't use Scrivener for
Mm-hmm.
compiling anymore. But it's still, I mean, especially if you're
Mm-hmm.
writing like multiple formats, because it just like whatever you can imagine that you'd want to write, it has like already like a template for it. And I also like it because you can keep your research and everything in one thing. But
Yeah.
Yeah, and you
It's like
talking about
separates
Noveler
everything.
though, I had those same problems with Pro Writing Aid, which used to plug in. Now it
Mhm.
I bought Pro Writing Aid before it was like a subscription thing, and now it's like a subscription thing, and
Yeah.
I didn't think that was really worth my time. It was nice and easy to use. The and I liked it more than I liked
Mhm.
Grammarly, but I'm now back to Grammarly just because.
Yeah.
Well, the problem
Grammarly
I was
helps a
having is
lot.
I would go after I would edit everything in Pro Writing Aid. It was plugged into my Scrivener, and when I'd go to open the Scrivener file, sometimes like my chapters would be messed up, and they would be written completely in like whatever code that Pro Writing Aid
Oh man.
is in, and it's not a and the biggest problem is
Wow.
too it's not like a cloud service, so it's all happening on your
Mhm.
computer. So if your file,
Oh
and
my
sometimes it
god.
would be even worse, where it'd be like whatever, like I said, the programming language, and then like some sentences,
Mhm.
and then the programming languages, and so you're just like, I can't do anything with this. I now have to
Yeah.
rewrite this entire chapter.
Huh.
And that
What the
happened
fuck?
between like 4 or 5 different books, and it pushed their release back, and I was like, I'm just done with this.
Yeah, dude. I
Yeah,
don't blame you at all. That would have absolutely pissed me off. Um, yeah, sometimes you just gotta have a moment of silence for every person who's
oh,
forgotten to hit the save button, or coding has gone wrong, or something as bad has happened and you lose work. Just losing 300 words feels like it feels like you've lost 300 pounds of
I
gold.
would, yeah,
Like,
I would rather get like a bad review on Amazon over a typo than have to rewrite 3,500 words of a chapter from scratch.
yep, exactly. Um, I'm trying to remember which chapter it was. It was the Vacation Planet is the first thing that comes to mind. Um, it's right after they're okay. It's when they're discussing when they're leaving what they're going to do
Mm-hmm.
to leave the city, and it's a very dialogue intricate scene. Like I had to really think about that whole scene because not only did I need to make the dialogue interesting, but I also had to make the scene make sense for the story so I don't create a big gaping magnum sized
Yeah.
plot hole in my story. And I got to the end of that chapter and then I refreshed the page because I do that sometimes. I'm like twitchy like that. But I refreshed the page, it was all fucking gone. And I was like, no. So like I was saying, I had a crisis. Like I had practically sworn off writing at that point. I was like, fuck
Yeah, when you lose that
everything.
much work, it just gets to the point you're like, I
uh,
can't go through this again.
exactly. So like the whole thing you say to yourself when you're going through rewriting that scene is you're like, this was
Every
better
time.
the
And
first
I don't even
time.
care if the first time was complete shit. I'm 100% positive it was the best thing I've ever written.
Yeah. Yep. Because you worked so hard on it. But yeah, that was quite an emotional struggle, but I did make it to the end of that one, so that was pretty cool. Um, what are some of your writing? What are some of the writing habits that you have when you're doing your projects or NaNoWriMo?
So, once again, I've never completed NaNoWriMo, so I'm going to have to buckle down this go around. But usually,
Mm-hmm.
the way I write is I procrastinate a lot, and then I remind myself that I'm a writer, so I need to write. And then I stress out in front of like the computer at a blank page, and basically I'll
Yeah.
force myself to at least get like 1,000 words a chapter down. Um, and
Nice.
sometimes that works really well. Sometimes I can get like, I think my best day I've written 15,000 words, and that was.
Nice.
But that was again like it's weird because different projects seem to flow a lot easier than other
Yeah.
stuff does. But
Yeah. Yeah, because it depends on like what mood you're in or what kind of
yeah,
new thing you're super into. Like when I was writing Janie, I was like I still love Lovecraft. Like he is like one of my favorite all-time writers. He's just a genius. And the when I was writing Janie, I was like, oh my god, I could just get a tattoo of Cthulhu on my forehead right now. I am so into Lovecraft. And then after that month was over, I had like burnt myself out with Lovecraft shit. And so like I still loved Lovecraft, but I don't know, like I am going to get back into it again. It's just a phase that I go through. It's like I'll have phases where I'm like, oh my god, I love Lovecraft, I love
Yeah.
King, I love Poe. And I'll like, go through my trinity. And yeah, so with this project, I'm trying to not burn myself
Yeah.
out so much because when the editing process comes around, it's going to be really like slow and sluggish for me. So one of the things I'm doing is um, I will like watch a movie that pertains to it a little bit. So if you were to take like a comedic version of what I'm doing, and like watch a movie of it, I would say like Get Him to the Greek is a really comedic
Yeah.
version of what I'm doing. Also, Jonah Hill's hilarious, and Russell
Very
Brand
much
makes me
so.
smile. And yeah, so that's one movie that I watched recently just to get myself into like the mood of kind of the look I'm going for. Obviously, mine's way darker than that, and I imagine a lot of like inner angst will come out when I'm writing it, but um, that's the whole fun of
Yeah.
it, of the journey of writing. Um, yeah, some of the habits that I do is well, I'll I get myself like a drink of something cold, whether it's rum and coke, which is my drink of choice, or just an ice water, depends on the day. And I'll just like sit down and I don't meditate, but I will just sit and space out for a second, like take deep breaths. I guess you could call it meditation, but I just kind of like block all this bullshit out of my life, and like it'll come up
Yeah.
in my writing. Like you'll tell emotionally where I'm at when I'm coming up in my writing. But that's usually what I do. It's a pretty quiet environment. I never listen to music. I've told people, I guess it's really weird not to listen to music when you write or something like that, but when I listen to music, it's so distracting to me. So I've described my writing area as a tomb before. Like you don't go into my tomb.
Yeah, I go
You
through
don't
phases
disturb
on the
it.
music thing
So
myself.
it's
Sometimes I feel I'm more productive in complete silence, but I also find it's harder to get
hmm
where I need to be in complete silence because I maybe because like living in the city,
right.
I'm not used to like there's always something, especially like I live right down from the Justice Department, so there's always ambulances and like I'm used
Oh
to there
yeah.
always being sound.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then once again, like if I go through music, like sometimes it does become such a distraction because I'm either trying to pay attention to like if it has a lot of lyrics or if it has
hmm
or I fall into that internet hole. Yeah.
Dude, that's the worst part. Um, there's like there's a lot of videos on YouTube on how to like make your life more distraction free, but I think a lot of it comes down to
Yeah, because the
is just
problem
self
is, like you're
control.
saying, I will
Like
watch
you,
2 hours of videos of how to make my life distraction free when I'm supposed to be writing, and then the writing day's over.
exactly. Yep, exactly. Yeah, yeah, I run into the same problem. YouTube especially sucks my life away for me because you go down that little YouTube black hole where like first you're just watching like a how-to on something with like Red Dead Redemption, which just came out, and the next thing you know you're watching like top 10 scariest
Yeah.
horror villains in movies by Mojo.com. So yeah, I gotta really be careful with myself when I'm on YouTube. And so what I do is I take my phone
Yeah.
and I leave it upstairs, and like I use the internet to use the writing
Yeah.
platform to use Noveler. But this is how I've sectioned it. This has really helped me out. I take my computer and I make it my workspace. I'm putting air quotes for those who
Yeah.
obviously can't see me. But I'm putting air quotes around it. This is my work space, and like I pretend it's
So
like
what
a
does it do?
job. Like you can't just like, yeah, it is a lot. It's a lot of work, and it's your job. And so, so this is like my space where I come here and I focus purely on writing. Just like when I go to work, my focus is purely on watching people's interactions with each other. Because I just changed jobs. I'm a security guard at a methadone clinic now. As you can imagine, it's very exciting work. So I do not say that
No,
ironically. It's very
I
actually
believe you.
pretty
I believe
exciting
you.
sometimes. uh, so I had to get between people and their methadone treatment. So that's an adventure in its own. Anyway, so that's
Yeah.
like my work face though. Like I'm a really nice guy. Like I'm a big lovable teddy bear, but like that's my work face. That's kind of what I had to do when I'm writing. I got to put my writing face on, get into my writing mindset, and then continue with that. And then when I hear someone come home from school or work, then
Yeah.
my work day's over essentially. So that's just kind of so my phone. That's where like all the distractions happen. That's like Facebook and Twitter and like all that shit is on my phone. So it's kind of like a metaphor, I guess you'd say. Like in my head, I connect my phone with like social
Yeah.
dopamine drops, and then my computer is just like my workspace. So that really helps me compartmentalize everything. And the computer is easy to get distracted and stuff like that. But that's just kind of that's what really helps me out. And you got to watch the internet because the internet is really the biggest enemy during NaNoWriMo. Especially, I'm kind of a video game nerd myself, but with between like October and December is when all like the big name brand games come out. So it's a really big struggle for me because I have a really hard time with that, so I use a reward system. So if I write 2,000 words, I'll spend
That's
this
why
much more
I'm not
time
even
playing
gonna
tonight.
buy Red Dead Redemption until December because I know I'll lose that
Yeah,
whole month. And then
yep,
what else we got? Oh,
exactly.
Fallout 76. That open beta is happening. Yeah. No, fuck that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't just lose the month. I would. You guys wouldn't hear from us until 2019 if I started playing that.
yep,
No doubt in my mind.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yep. Yeah, I played a little bit myself, but what I like about it is it's casual enough so that you can like stop at any point. It's not like the best like Call of Duty is like mind-numbingly fast and like you gotta constantly hit these achievements and shit. With Red Dead, it's just kind of like it's super casual, except when it's not, and you like have to go out and look for it. So it's most of what I've done so far is I customized my horse. I named it Cookie, and I ride it across the West, and it hasn't died yet.
And
So
I
I
would
think I'm
do
doing
that
good.
for the entire month of November. You don't understand. I read
Yep.
the bookshelf behind me. Half of those are all Western books. Louis L'Amour, Zane Grey. Yeah, I
There you
am
go.
a nerd when it comes to that stuff, and Jesus,
Oh
I don't
shit.
even know how many hours. What I did everything in the last game. Everything.
Yep. Yeah. I got like 90% completion the last one. And this one when I played the first one I was way more hardcore of a gamer. This time I doubt I'll get much, but um I'm not so much a Western nerd as much as I am a Rockstar follower because
I've
Rockstar
been
makes wonderful
playing
games.
Red Dead
So,
since PlayStation 2, and then I went from that to Gun, which was also really good. That was the open
mhm.
world. Love that
I
game.
remember that one.
And then yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
Call of
that was fun
Juarez, that was
too.
my
That
first
was
Western
the
game.
first person one.
Yeah. I I had when I was a teenager, my parents were like super strict with like religiously and like they believed Harry Potter was a bunch of kids worshiping the devil and all that shit and like that's a lot of my own backstory. So what I did that's a very vulgar game. So I I hid it by putting my headphones on. It was the first time I had used headphones in a game. So I like went up to one of these kids at church and I was like, "Hey, so you got any headsets you don't want? And they're like, yeah, man, what are you doing? I'm like, just listening to this Journey album,
Yeah.
which was true, but I was also playing vulgar video games, and I felt like such a G. I
I
say
really
G, but
like.
I'm really white.
Do you remember? I mean, obviously, like my little brothers, I tried to explain this to them. I was like, you used to not be able to buy video games, like based on their rating. If you were under a certain age, you had to get your parents to check you out, because they're used to just buying shit on
Mm-hmm.
the
Yep.
Xbox Marketplace or on Steam or on the Sony network.
Yep.
And I'm like, you guys don't
Exactly.
understand.
Yep.
Like having to explain.
You don't know
Yeah,
what
having
it
to
was
explain
like
to
for
mom
us.
how like, yeah, the game says mature, but only some of those things are actually in it, mom. They just go overboard when they put those labels on there.
I think I played racing games and snowboarding games all the way until I moved out of the house because my parents, or my dad especially, scared the shit out of me. So I wasn't gonna like do
We
that in
used to
front of
play.
him.
There was an
But
EverQuest game for PlayStation 2, and this has nothing to do about writing, but you could have up to 4 players, and you could turn the blood off, and that was the only reason I was able to keep it in my dad's house.
hmm. Is there is there a particular Lamore book that stands out to
Um,
you? Like any of the stories that he wrote,
I
or is it just kind of a big
I mean,
blend
it's a
of
big
different
blend of
stories?
differences. I mean, a lot of his stuff is really formulaic. I mean, it's all, for the most part, it's all their, the Old West, it's all their tales of revenge, or,
Right.
Drifter moves into town, town's run by, like, a cattle baron, Drifter has to, like, fight the cattle baron, probably falls in love with the cattle baron's daughter, type of thing. Good guys always win in the
Yeah.
end. Men being men,
Mm.
boxing matches, and timber companies. It's like it's everything you can imagine about the Old West. If you haven't read him, the Iron Marshal is a good place to start. That's one of my like favorite ones. A Man Called Noon is really good too. That one's like, I mean, all of his. If you like books with a lot of action, I would
Mm-hmm.
highly recommend Lee Lamore.
Yeah. I only know his name because my ex-wife's dad read like a Lou Lamore
Yeah,
book a week. So he had like entire bookshelves
he
with
wrote like I think
Lamore
100
all over
books,
them.
something like that. Yeah.
Holy crap! Really? That sounds accurate. His shelves were pretty
Well,
packed
it's
with
like,
Lamore books, but I thought it was smut. I thought it was like erotica or like those like the
yeah,
dollar store like sexy man books. That's what I thought they were. So that always kind of confused me that he was reading them because he's like a
yeah.
John Wayne kind of guy.
Yeah, there's those, and then William Johnstone. His books tend to be a little longer, but same thing. I mean,
hmm
there's a lot of Western writers. I'm starting. I have like 2 Western series I started writing, and they're really
Yeah.
fun to write because it's just like two-fisted action. I don't have to like weave a complex mystery of why like this monster has come to town. Like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you got to be like
Yeah.
super historically accurate because other books that I read in that
hmm
genre.
Even the way they speak to each other is very
Yeah,
dated for the way that we speak today. So that's that's what really let me just tell you about a project that I've had in mind for a long time. It's if I create a book that is 100,000 words long, which kudos to
all
everyone
those
out there
epic
who's ever
fantasy
done
guys.
that. That is fucking mind blowing. Yeah, Jesus Christ, I have huge doubts on myself about doing that. So kudos to those of you who have that motivation. But um, that aside, so what I wanted to do so bad for like I would say a couple of years at least is I wanted to write historical fiction piece about World War I
Yeah,
and life in the trenches. And I think that I would depict how people react in situations like that as a former
yeah,
infantryman myself. So I think that'd be good. However, they spoke and their mannerisms, everything back then was so different than they are today. So the thing that I did to get around that is to create a scenario where it would be recreated in today's world. So what I did was I would be calling it Aurora Nights because I learned that when it was like the 1880s or something like that, that there was this huge solar flare that went around the earth, and if there were electrical appliances or anything electrical or could be affected by solar radiation, it would have been fried
That's terrifying.
immediately. It's just, yeah, so that actually happened, and the fact that there was no modern technology like we have today back then is just a fluke. But what it does is it creates a beautiful effect around the globe of a constant
Yeah.
aurora borealis. If that had happened today, civilization would be coming to a grinding halt because we rely so much on our tech. So what I would do is I would create this huge battle that no one really understands what it originated from, but across like the flatlands of the U.S. from like Louisiana to like Montana, like all through Kansas and shit. All of that would be like no man's land and like trench warfare and bloody, bloody fucking fights. And in like the Rockies and the Appalachian Mountains, you'd have like guerrilla warfare and like dudes up there that are like kidnapping people and stuff like that. And so it would follow the course of these two guys that are they're just like high school buddies or whatever. They're like in their like late 20s, and they're like cruising down the road and the car just stops, and they're like, well shit, the car's had a history of shutting down for no reason as it is. So they're like, well, fucking this goddamn car, right? So they go down the road, and being in Maine, there's not a gas station for at least 30 miles, and they're in the middle of the woods. So by the time they realize civilizations come to a halt, they're already like there's like fucking martial law and all kinds of shit going on. So that's kind of where it would start, and it would follow their journey across the U.S. because I've driven across the U.S. 3 times. I have a pretty good idea of what
Yeah.
it's like going across. So they would. I haven't. The reason why I haven't started that one is because I don't have a motive for two late 20-year-old men to travel that fucking
Well, you could
distance
set it later.
to like go through
You
all
could
of that
set it
shit.
later afterwards. So
So,
there's already like you were saying, there's already these little like segments of martial law, and people are trying to rebuild their own version of civilization. And maybe one of your characters
mhm.
is, I don't know. I feel like there's so much you could do there that I get what you're saying. It's like almost overwhelming to
Yeah,
think about. But I would,
yeah.
instead of trying to make that one book, why not make that into a series? Because then, like, each
That might be
state they
something.
go through,
Um,
almost like episodic, like, oh, you know, we went through this state, and then this crazy shit happened, and now we're in the mountains fighting some savage backwoods clan that's eating people. That's another thing. If you don't put cannibals in there, being in Maine, because let me tell you something. One post-apocalyptic look, I'm one bad blackout away in winter. Like, if my power's out for more than 24 hours in winter, my neighbors better watch out because I'm gonna be thinking about it.
It's funny you say that. I used to write on. I don't know if I mentioned it previous episode or not, but this kid I used to ride on the bus with to school. When I was in the army, as it turns out, he killed his grandmother, cut her up, put her in a trash bag, and left her by the road. So yes, people in Maine are a little bit psycho and really close to home. I have a running joke with a couple of friends of mine where you never really hear about people like getting killed out here. You just find their body. Like this one woman 2 years ago, she went missing, and then they found her a mile from where I was living in the woods.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like take a walk if I
So
ever come visit you. At least not by myself.
I wouldn't. Yeah, it's a very different type of walking at night by
Speaking of
yourself.
that, I was taking the trash
Like
out from work the other day, and someone put a fucking red balloon in the dumpster. So it was just like
oh
floating.
no.
Yeah.
No, that's
I was
not
like, no, I've
okay.
seen this movie.
I see this movie. Fuck this. Buy trash and go to
Yeah,
the raccoons tonight.
I just left it there. Not gonna lie, I'm not brave.
That's so great. Oh my god. Yeah, I would have freaked out pretty hard. That's
So,
so good. But yeah, that's a project down the road that I wanted to figure out, but as soon as I can find a motive, god damn it, I will work on it. It's going to be a huge project too. I can already feel it in my bones. It's going to take up a lot of my time. It'll probably be like 2 months
so
for me to
after
create the thing.
NaNoWriMo,
Yeah. Yeah, after this project for sure. So what I would do is I would probably split it up. Well, I mean, this is going to sound really dumb, but I came to the realization that you can write novels in between NaNoWriMo and Camp
whoa.
NaNoWriMo. But the only times I've ever tried writing novels is during those times, or I'll be like, oh, I don't need to because Camp NaNoWriMo's in 3 months. Yeah, that's really cheap, and I feel like I could be doing more with my writing career if I actually focus on noveling. So,
I mean, it
noveling.
could be worse. You could be like
That's not
some
a
people
word.
that have 8, no, 9 finished novels now that need to be edited.
Hmm.
And I've been
Like
procrastinating
me.
that for about a year now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've written a few novels, and the Vacation Planet was the first one I actually put into publish publishing.
I think it's just that thing where
So.
I'm really good at writing first drafts because they're so light.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Because I only do like most of my first draft chapters are only like 1,000, maybe 1,500 words tops. But then when I edit,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I
Yeah.
really like thicken everything up and really go into debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flush it out a little bit. I do the opposite actually. I'll create like this bloated, obese, runaway project, and then after editing, I've like put it through fitness training and really cut a lot of fat away from it. Because what always happens with me is I'll be creating something, and I'll be like, well, I need this, and I need that, and I need that, and I need that, and I need that. So my editor was like, that's a really cool tidbit, but I'm not sure it really pertains to much. And I'm like, you know what? You're the professional editor here. I'm just going to do what you say. So I just kind
Yeah.
of was like, okay, cool. Stephen King says, always listen to your editor, and god damn it, I did. And it turned out for the best because I haven't gotten any 1 stars yet. So I'm keeping the champagne on ice though because it's
Oh,
that 1 star is going to come in from like a bitter, angry person who has no son in their life, and I'll be like,
I like the one. I like the ones I get
champagne.
on Float where they're like, I don't like sharks.
Why did you buy my book? It
Like
has a shark on
those are
the
the ones that
cover.
I can't even be mad about. I'm just like, oh, okay. Like
Thanks.
now I kind of, it makes me feel like I guess like now I know like when you're bashing a horror movie or something for like dumb shit,
Mhm.
it's all that karmic debt
Yeah,
coming back. Yeah,
that's what it is.
makes
It
sense.
has to be it.
I've said some terrible things about some pretty good
It's
movies.
uh, I've said some bad things about some pretty
That's
good
fair.
writers too. So I think that's just karma going to be coming back to me. Like I don't know. Like it's just frustrating when you read someone whose work like they're very popular because of the work they put out, and you read it, and if you don't like it, you feel like it's something that you should like, even though you had no even
Yeah,
passing thoughts of enjoying it. You just kind of got. Yeah, never grab a book that you have to
yeah,
force yourself through. Never do that because you're gonna like start hating writing and reading and shit. It's like you want to read people who are better than you, and you want to write better than them, and you can steal some style elements that other people have. But if you read someone that you hate, but someone tells you they're good, you should not be stealing their style because if you borrow that style, you're gonna do it poorly. So also, a lot of famous authors are only there because of who they know, not what they know, and that is
Well,
extremely
maybe that's how it
frustrating.
used to be,
'Cause I feel
but
like I could
I
be
don't know.
doing better.
Because I feel like now
Yeah, it is.
there's really
Yeah,
no
I agree.
gatekeepers. I mean, you can just throw shit out there.
Yeah, exactly. Like classic American literature, like you can't hate Oliver Twist. You can't get mad at like To Kill a Mockingbird. You can't hate Ender's Game because they're like they're classics.
Never read
They're
Oliver
not
Twist.
just it's not a nostalgia thing. Yeah, it's not a nostalgia thing. It's a you had to be really fucking good at writing to publish thing.
Or it just had to fall on the
So
desk
I think
of
that's
the right
why they're
editor that was
classics.
like, hey, this is pretty good.
hmm
Because,
do you ever see that movie
yeah,
Midnight in Paris?
that was a weird movie.
Yeah, I feel like Owen Wilson. It was really weird, but every movie Kathy Bates is in has my attention.
That's all right. Whatever floats your boat.
I just, I just want Kathy Bates to be my mom. Kathy Bates, if you
That's
hear
not where I
this,
thought
just
you
be
were
my
gonna
mom.
take that. But yeah. Anyway,
Oh, that's too bad.
yeah, that was a weird movie. We have gone so far
Yeah,
off topic.
but
What is
that's okay. We're vaguely in the same
yeah?
genre
If you're
that
still
we're
with
talking
us,
about,
what are
right?
your NaNoWriMo like thoughts this year? Be sure to let us know.
Yeah.
Also, Slater, like, so your game plan: no internet, no social media while you're writing,
Well, it's not like
moderation.
moderation. If you yeah, separate them. You definitely want to separate them. Separate your workspace from your social hangout space.
And
So
you're
keep
gonna
your
pants
phone in
this
the other
thing.
room. I'm going to plant it. So I'm planning it and pantsing it in between
I'm
main plot
gonna
points.
plan it, and hopefully I can get past and bad things happened because
Nice.
that leaves a lot
I
open
think
to
you can.
interpretation.
You can go with a lot with that. Like just like Harvester. Just like how would they
I don't
sacrificing
know. It's
people
just
in
gonna be
that
bad
town?
though. That's as
Okay.
far as I've gotten, but I'm gonna figure it out.
Like you should have each part of their body pertain to a different type of product that they're growing. Like if it's like if you skin the person alive, the husks of the corn is going to be thicker
Oh,
or
have it
something
some
like
like
that.
crazy ritualistic thing where they need to take like certain parts.
Mm.
That'd be
Yep.
kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am
I'm
too.
excited for it. Anyways, anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. Sorry we rambled so much this time, but what are your thoughts? Go ahead and leave in the comment section what you'd like, and please subscribe. This has been Death by Writing. I'm your host, Joe Slater, and your other host. This has been Jake Peyton. We hope you guys have a good
See y'all
rest of your
next
day.
week.